Okay, today's flight is a E-flite Twin Otter on floats. I've flown this off of wheels. Flies really nice. Um, you kind of need shorter grass if you're going to do off a grass runway. I normally fly off of asphalt. It does really good with the wheels. The floats will actually fly off of grass as well, but you gotta use flaps and keep that nose up, otherwise it'll want to tip forward. So this flight is my first ever flight with a float plane off the water.
Nice.
I can't believe all the years I've been flying. I've had interest in float flying, but never actually got a plane with floats and never took initiative to fly it. So really enjoyable experience. As you can tell, this is an older video, so I wanted to do some voiceover and give a little narration for some of the flights. So they recommend you use a 3-cell 2200 milliamp battery. I'm actually running a 4000 milliamp battery, 3-cell. Flies really nice. You do need to adjust the CG a little bit, and by that I mean you need to adjust your battery according to what size battery you're using. For example, if you're using a heavier battery than what they recommend, you're going to want to slide it closer to your CG point, and in this case the battery is in the nose just under the canopy. So with a 2200 it's slid out towards the nose, but with a 4000 milliamp you want to slide it back a little bit, so a little closer to the wing, the root of the wing. And really enjoyable experience. The heavier battery gives you a longer flight time, but once you adjust the CG, it also helps it fly a little bit more stable in the wind. If you add weight by a larger battery pack, you'll find that if you do much wind flying, which I tend to fly. Here in Ohio we have all kinds of weather, and a lot of days are kind of windy, so can't always find a calm day to fly, but some little tricks of the trade help with that. I was really impressed with this plane. It flew a lot more stable than I expected. It does have AS3X stability and safe technology, of course, but I think just most twins are going to fly a little more stable in the wind. At least that's been my experience, similar to the E-flite Beechcraft. It's also a twin and flies really well. Now the Twin Otter does not have differential thrust like the Beechcraft does, and so that makes a big difference. Having differential thrust really locks in the yaw of your airplane while you're flying in the wind. This one here, I like to fly with flaps. Some people say, well, you should only use flaps for taking off or for landing, and
Yeah,
I use flaps a lot more than most people do. I like to use flaps all the time. I use half flaps flying around to extend my flight time, and I'll use full flaps for landing and takeoff. So another thing that helps you pull up out of the water and break that little vacuum or that little suction when you're flying off of floats is using flaps. So keep that in mind. Now you might have seen in the title of this video, I do have the rudders removed from the floats. So this is also helpful on a windy day. You definitely don't want to pick a windy day to fly off of floats. It's a good way to get your plane flipped upside down, and you either have to go swimming or find a boat to retrieve it. And definitely don't recommend that. So there's maybe some things I do that I wouldn't recommend, because a new pilot could go out and really end up having a bad day, losing your airplane. It's not worth it. Stay within your realm of skills, and you'll be grateful. But removing the rudders from the floats helps it to weather vane a little bit when you have winds, so it really makes it near impossible to take off crosswinds. So some people wouldn't like that, but on a float plane it helps you to weather vane, keeps your nose pointed into the wind, and as you can see here, it kept it from having any adverse effect from trying to what they call crow when you're coming in or taking off, where your plane's kind of going sideways with your nose pointed into the wind while you're tracking a different direction. But this plane flew really nice. Really impressed. With the 4000 milliamp 3-cell, I've seen as much as 30 minutes, 31 or 32 minutes, I think, was some of my longest flights on this Twin Otter. Would be a great plane for someone who's wanting to explore with FPV, and it has a tricycle landing gear when you have the wheels on it. This plane comes with the floats or the wheels. Obviously this video is flying off the floats. A really enjoyable experience. Probably could have been better if the wind was a little more stable. Maybe if there wasn't any crosswinds, it Might have been a little nicer, but really couldn't complain. I was really impressed, and like I said, for my first flight off the water, it was super enjoyable, and I'm hooked. I love to float fly now, so I wanted to share this experience, and hope you enjoy the flight. Look for some more of it. Got some other upcoming videos with some twin airplanes. Don't want to give away too much, but stay tuned for some future videos. But the Twin Otter is definitely a plane I would recommend if you're thinking about getting it already. And keep that in mind, you can extend your flight time by jumping from a 2200 milliamp up to a 4000 if you'd like. You're going to add a little weight, it's going to handle a little different, it's going to be a little heavier in the air. But if you're just scale flying or doing like what I'm doing in this video, you won't notice it that much. This plane is capable of some mild sport flying. I have hovered it before with a 2200 milliamp, but it's not really what it's made to do. So very enjoyable plane. Highly recommend if you're thinking about getting it. And thanks for watching.